look that I'm creating, going all the way back to early 2000s, using iconic products that I loved, products that you can still buy today, and I'm gonna take you back in time. Let's go. Let's rewind the clock and go back and get started with today's look. One of the biggest brands back in 2008 that I used to love for primer was Smashbox. They were well known for their photo finish primers. They had a few different options. Now they've expanded that range. There's some luminous ones. They have even like a setting spray that goes along with the photo finish line. This one is the original photo finish smooth and blur. So it's like a silver and black tube, and it has that sort of silicone consistency where it helps kind of smooth the skin, blur imperfections and pores so that your makeup goes on better and it looks a little bit smoother in the end after blending in foundation. But I remember when I first tried Smashbox for the first time, I was hooked. That was one of the biggest selling primers when I worked at Ulta. That was it in the prestige area. That was one of the #1 primers. So this, again, I'm gonna say this a lot in this video, I am taking myself way, way back. And this has that clear sort of silicone consistency, and it feels really smooth, and I'm pretty sure they've changed the formula a little bit. It's iconic for a reason because it definitely works. It smooths the skin, and my skin feels buttery smooth. If you could feel my skin through the screen, oh my gosh, this like instantly makes dryness and texture just feel a lot smoother. Revlon Colorstay. Do I need to say anymore? I remember when I discovered this way back when. They did not have a pump. I am so glad that they have kept that glass bottle, which is nice, and they've added a pump to it. The formula is probably different. I've had better success with it now than I did then. I think it's just formula and also color matching. The shade that I have is number 150. This is the lightest shade in the combination to oily version. They do have one for more dry skin. So what were some of your favorite products back in the early 2000s? Are you still using them now? Do you still love them? Are they still available for purchase? Let's talk about it in the comments. I would love to hear what your favorites are. This product from Revlon is still available, and it's a great formula. I rediscovered this foundation a few months back when I did my Revlon 1 brand. If you haven't seen it, the cards above this video will take you to that, so you can check that out. I was so impressed with how this matched my skin and the actual tone, the blend. It's good. There was one concealer that I remember really loving, and my thing with concealer was that I would pick the lightest to have the brightest, almost white looking under eyes. So not flattering. We have evolved, times have changed, okay? But it was a concealer from Almay, and I remember it had like a little brush applicator, and I used to use that. And I also had like a stick one that I used to use from Maybelline. I don't even know if they make it anymore. It was like, it almost looks like a lipstick, but it was like a stick concealer. And there was brands at Ulta back then that you can't find anymore, like Jane was one of them. You could also get like Cargo. On the prestige side, you could also shop Paula Dorf, which I don't know if that line makes any more cosmetics these days, but those were all brands. Dermablend was the big one then too. So it was just kind of so many different things that I don't feel like I could find nowadays. But there's one brand that's been out for as long as I can remember, and that's Clinique. So I'm going to use my Clinique Even Better All Over Concealer. So I'm going to do just a little bit of this. This is a phenomenal concealer, by the way. It's a serum concealer with really nice coverage, and the shade that I use normally year-round is WN01 Flax. I did not buy a new shade of this to match my more tan skin from the summer. And since we're talking about concealer, who remembers the Becca Under Eye Brightener? Becca was another brand that you could shop at Ulta as well. Smashbox has since taken over the brand with some things. I do have a Becca product in this video that I might use, but the Under Eye Brightener was huge, and I remember not really caring for it too much because it was always really thick, and I haven't tried it in a long time, so I don't know if they've changed the formula, but it used to be really thick, and I remember it creasing on me. Even if I set it, it never really stayed looking nice under the eye. So I may need to revisit that sometime in the future. And then Benefit had like this pink under eye setting powder for the under eyes. Do you remember that? They discontinued that. I don't know why. It was so good. Benefit was one of those OG brands as well. This foundation and primer combo looks so good. It's smooth. You can still see some of my imperfections because I didn't use that much. One pump with the sponge is a little bit lighter than using one pump with a brush. So you kind of lose a little bit of coverage using a sponge, which is fine because the next product is another classic. It's a brand that I have used before on this channel and I have loved, but I found this brand initially through Ulta when this line was carried in store. It's the Laura Geller line of products. This is a makeup line that's existed since I think the 90s. And I remember buying a kit at Ulta and having the foundation, which is the Baked Balance in Brighten. This is one of the more popular products from the line and it's one of my favorites. It has like a swirling of different shades and I have the shade Fair. And you swirl your brush, you can use this over your foundation like I will today, or you can use this as your foundation over the Spackle Primer, which I do own, and maybe I should have used that as well, but I wanted to use Smashbox, but the Spackle Primer from Laura Geller was also another product that sold really well, and I remember using that primer with this. Bump up a little bit more coverage, lightly dust a little bit under the eyes to set my concealer, and then we get to do some bronzer, we get to do the brows, and I'm going to take you way back with the brows. But first, let's go ahead and set the face just a little bit. I'm using my BK Beauty 111 brush, which actually is a bronzer brush that I adore. But I'm going to use it to set my Colorstay foundation from Revlon. I told you I was going to take you way back with the brows. ABH Dip Brow. That's so old school. I have not used a brow pomade like this in a very, very long time. I have this shade Medium Brown. I remember when I used to use their tinted brow mascara and I used to get the auburn, so it looks kind of red because my hair was like a bright like Little Mermaid red at one point. And I used to use their brow products for matching that sort of brighter red, but in general, hands down, the best brand for brow products is the ABH brand. That's what they're known for, and they've expanded, of course, since then, which is really great to see the brand go from just brows to now having complexion, eyeshadow, lip products, and they make really, really beautiful formulas. I have an angled brush with a spoolie on the end. This is a Sephora Pro number 20 brush, and I'm just gonna fast forward through this because, like I said, I'm out of practice with this. I don't know, this could go very wrong. This used to give me the very intense brows, which I used to like. I always used to love having the thicker, more full brow, and then I would go pretty thin, and then I'd wax and pluck, and then you're left with this, where you have to really fill it in a lot. So I'm gonna just take a little bit of this and tread softly. Let's start by combing this first. Let's see if I can do a much more soft, more natural kind of look than what I used to go for. Okay, so this doesn't look too bad now, does it? I thought I was gonna end up with Sharpie brows, but it actually looks pretty good for my first time using this in years. I'm talking years since I used a pomade type of product like this, and I really do enjoy it. I've always loved ABH. They have some really great products, so I pulled from my drawer the Brow Wiz. It's great. It's much more of a smaller, kind of more defined point to it, and then if you like a little bit of a triangular, more thicker, like teardrop shape, the brow definer is fantastic. So ABH is like old school for brows. I just love their products, and they can do no wrong for brows in my eyes. I honestly forgot how good this was, and I didn't really make as many mistakes as I thought, and this actually took less time to do than I thought as well. I thought I was going to be here for a long time, but you know, I'm going to kind of try it again and get back into that rhythm of using Dip Brow products for my brows again, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get it done a lot faster next time. But this is so good. I don't know why I stopped using it. I did set my brows with a laminating brow wax. The brand that I use is, I think, iconic. It reminds me, just takes me right back to some good memories. It's Too Faced. I use their laminating brow wax. This product itself is probably a few years old. I discovered this, I think, 2 years ago, and I have loved it ever since. This is the best laminating brow wax you can find. It comes with 2 different styles of brow combs, so you can really get them to lay down and shellac those brows down and keep them in place all day. So this, to me, cannot be beat, so I use that to set my brows. And because we're talking about Too Faced, let's just go ahead and make our way into more Too Faced products. The Chocolate Soleil. The Chocolate Soleil bronzer. Now the packaging is so much improved and prettier and better with the little heart here. That really nice kind of bronzy cocoa color with the gold detailing. It's so different than what it used to be. I remember when they had the leopard bronzer. Raise your hand if you remember that. Yep, the pink leopard bronzer was it. But that was like in a box packaging, at least the one that I had. I don't remember if it was in a pretty compact, but that was it. And I got a fresh new chocolate Soleil bronzer. So we're gonna bronze it up. It smells like chocolate. Oh man, it brings me right back. I'm going to use my little Real Techniques brush that I love to use. This is the mini multitask brush. And I'm going to just start bronzing up my face and adding some more color, as I often do, just like in a W motion to mimic where the sun would actually hit. Let's move on to blush. I pulled 2 different ones from my collection that I wanted to use, and I think I may do a little bit of some layering just for the sake of nostalgia and to show you the products and demo them both. I talked about Laura Geller earlier, so she has wonderful baked blushes that are just absolutely stunning. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this brand in general, especially the baked blush in Brighten. I have a few of these. This one here specifically is Tropic Hues, and it looks absolutely beautiful. Do you see that? The Stila Convertible color. Who remembers these? This shade specifically is Lilium. This is one of their more popular products. And it's crazy to see that this product is still available. And you can tell, hopefully, that it has a bit of a kind of glossy finish. So I don't tend to use this kind of texture and formula very often because I do have more oily skin. I tend to not go for these types of formulas. They're just too emollient. And in general, I don't like super emollient, kind of balmy feel on my skin. So I think I may do a tiny bit of this just for old time's sake, and to demo it, I may just use very minimal and rely mostly on this Laura Geller. And I really didn't think this through too much, using something like the Convertible color from Stila over my face that has the powder and the powder bronzer on top. But I'm gonna just do like a little tapping motion and circular motions like this, just to kind of get a wash of color, not really buffing too hard, because I don't want to lift what's going on underneath, because everything in my base complexion today is looking so good, and I'd hate to mess that up, so I'm gonna just do a tiny bit. But look how pretty and soft and natural, and you know, it's not as balmy as it used to be. I don't know if they've reformulated since then, most likely yes, but the packaging still looks a lot like it used to be, even like the labels on the back. That looks so fresh, so pretty. And it's the perfect shade that you can use year round. It's like a shade that goes with everything, regardless of what you do with your eyes or your lips for the day. It doesn't compete, it doesn't take away, it doesn't, distract you from everything else. Like, it's just so pretty. It's understated, it's beautiful, and I just love this. I wish that they would come out with these in like a more powder formula or something that's more of like a traditional liquid type of blush. Then I would be all over that, especially in that shade. But let's just do a little bit of Laura Geller, why not? Now with the Laura Geller, I'm going to just tap again, almost kind of like setting the Stila Convertible color, but I'm also using very minimal because these from Laura Geller are very pigmented. Very, very pigmented. The pink buttercream is my absolute favorite. This one is called Tropic Hues, and it's a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more pink, but there's some like lavender, there's a little bit of like a kind of peachy apricot type shade, there's like a terracotta that's a little bit more red, a light soft pink. There's just so many colors going on, and it's just stunning. Like, this formula is beautiful, and these are made in Italy. They start off as a cream and then they're baked, so they are just so smooth and they're easy to work with. Highly recommend these blushes from Laura Geller. Let's add some glow to the skin, and I pulled 3 from my collection that just are like classics. One is so iconic. The brand itself, if you know, you know. Let's talk about some MAC, okay? The MAC highlighters, the MAC cosmetic line in general is so old school. It just takes me way back to early 2000s, and this is one of my favorite highlighters from this brand. This is the Mineralized Skin Finish highlighter in the Soft and Gentle. This is probably hands down my favorite highlighter that I own in my collection. It is absolutely stunning. But I can't ignore the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfectors, okay? This was all the rage, and I recently picked up the shade called Moonstone. This is one of their lighter ones. There's lots of different shades you can choose from. Some that are a little bit more bronzy, some that have a little bit more rose. Then you have that champagne pop, and that was all the rage back then as well. This definitely takes me back to those days. And the packaging is just as I remember. It's that soft touch kind of silicone matte feel with that silver sort of metal on the top of the compact, and Smashbox has since taken over the Becca brand and kept some of their iconic products, so you'll still see the skin perfectors, the under eye brighteners available, and I think the backlight primers. I'm not quite sure on the primers, but those were also some really great products from Becca. And the next one, the last product that is actually an eyeshadow, but I use it in place of my highlight, is the Stila Kitten eyeshadow. That takes me back as well. Just like everything in this video, the Stila Kitten eyeshadow was something that was so popular. It is a very intense metallic type of finish. It's a pretty champagne with a little bit of pink to it, and it is just incredible. Like, look at that. The intensity that this shadow had back then was one of those that was like, whoa. You will see a lot of the kitten color in some other products from the Stila brand. So this is pretty intense. And fun little fact, I used to use very light shades like this, specifically this one from Stila the Kitten, all over my lids, do a thick winged liner with some Maybelline gel liner and some L'Oreal mascara or some Maybelline mascara, whatever it was. I used to use a lot of just like soft shimmer type shades like this one. Moving on to eyes, let's create a simple look today. One of the products that I use every single day that is so old school is the Paint Pots by MAC. I use Painterly to set my lids and prevent creasing and prevent that oil production throughout the day. The Painterly shade is the perfect kind of slightly rosy, kind of cool tone shade to cancel out any veining and discoloration on my lids. I have to use my Too Faced Shadow Insurance. Who remembers when this was in a squeeze tube? I went through so many of these. The packaging, of course, has since changed. They still have that similar kind of Tiffany blue type of shade, but they now have it in a different component. Like I said, it was squeeze tube then. Now it's a doe foot applicator. You can kind of swipe it. So I'm going to use a little bit of this. I think I'm going to blend this in with a brush. And we're going to use some MAC eyeshadows today. Yep, we're doing it. We're using some MAC eyeshadows to create a simple look for today. And what I like about this primer from Too Faced is that you don't really need a lot. Another good primer that I used to use a lot as well was the Urban Decay Primer Potion, but I was loyal to the Shadow Insurance for several years before I switched to the Primer Potion from Urban Decay. And then at one point I was kind of going between the two. Since I don't have the original MAC palettes, I decluttered those years and years ago because they obviously would be so expired by now. I pulled the only MAC eyeshadow palette that I owned, and I bought this last year. This is the Connect in Color eyeshadow palette, Unfiltered Nudes. It looks like that it has kind of more of like a deserty type of look. Really nice and simple. I like the packaging. It's different from MAC because it used to be just plain black and you could customize it yourself. These already come with the eyeshadows and they're on the back, the names of them, so you don't have to handwrite them on these. But this is a palette that I honestly have not used enough. I feel like I bought this because of the tones of it, and I'll hold it upside down so I don't blind you with the mirror. So I bought this palette for the tones, and I got it through the Ulta website, and there's a few shades in here that are kind of old school MAC, but a lot of them are just everyday basic shades, and I thought I was going to get a lot of use out of it, and I honestly have not picked this up as much. So we're going to show this some love. Let's start off with one of those old school colors for transition. I'm going to go to this one right here, and this one is Wedge. Who remembers using Wedge eyeshadow? That was one of my go-tos. This one here is Satin Taupe, which again was so popular back then as well. So we're going to start with Wedge. I'm going to use that to define my crease, and I'm going to use a BK Beauty 212 crease brush for this. So if you use MAC eyeshadows, what were your favorite ones? I had so many. I had All That Glitters, Wedge, Satin Taupe, Carbon was another one. I mean, there was so many, and I remember loving going into the store and seeing just the displays and telling them the MAC employee, I want one of those, I want this one, and they would go and pull the little refill pans. I'm going to take that same Wedge eyeshadow on the lower lashes with a BK Beauty 204 smudge brush. How can I do a nostalgia type video without using the iconic Satin Taupe? I mean, I gotta use it, right? And I need to use my MAC 239 brush. This is one of my favorite eyeshadow brushes. It's so good. And we're just gonna put that on the lids because why not? I'm gonna pat this from inner corner to outer corner. And this is such a pretty kind of taupey grayish color that has that bit of plumminess to it. So a little bit of a purple undertone. So it gives you a little bit of color without it being too out of your comfort zone if you don't like to use like colorful shades. It's a very wearable approach to something with a little bit of a purple plummy undertone to it. It's really pretty, very popular because look at it's just stunning. I'm going to use that Stila Kitten eyeshadow for my inner corner highlights. I'm going to use a very small brush. This is a Revlon number 3 brush. And I'm going to use just a tiny bit. This is very intense, super bright and metallic and finish. So you really only need a little bit to brighten the inner corner and add a little bit more of an openness to the eyes right in this inner part here. I do have highlighter there from the Becca, so I don't need to add more. Just whatever was left here so I don't waste any product. I used to love the Urban Decay 24/7 pencil liners. I owned every single shade. They came out with a Vault collection. I think it was their 15th anniversary set that had every single pencil in full size. And when I worked at Ulta, I used my employee discount and I was like, yes, I'm getting that because those were the liners. Used to tight line with them, use them really thick across the line. I used to do really thick liner. But I don't have that one. I have a nub of the Zero, which is black, in my travel makeup bag, and that's upstairs. It's nap time. You don't mess with nap time, so I'm not going upstairs to grab that. The applicator on this liquid liner from Stila, the Stay All Day, is a felt tip, so it gives you a little bit more control than a brush tip. This liner was one of those very popular liquid liners at the time as well, and it's still being sold today. They do have a couple different shades. The one that I have is the Intense Black, so I'm going to do a very thin line. One of the very popular mascaras back in the early 2000s was the original Voluminous from L'Oreal. This is a classic kind of old school formula. The applicator is your traditional mascara wand. This little mini was a gift with purchase. If you spend a certain amount in the L'Oreal brand on the Ulta website, they sent you a free gift with purchase, and this was what was included in my order a couple months ago. So it's kind of cool to have it back in my collection to try it again. It wasn't like my absolute favorite. I think my style and my preferences of mascara now is totally different than it was then. But this was all the rage back when this was like the it mascara, and I just use it because everybody loved it. It was popular. It sold a lot when I worked at Ulta. So I'm going to use this for old time's sake. I'm going to do 2 coats on my top lashes and do a coat of it on my bottom lashes. Mascara is complete. It's not my favorite mascara. It's not terrible. It's not the worst one. I think I prefer, my favorite still is the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift Mascara that is in a black and silver tube. It came out, I think, last year, I believe, and that is phenomenal. Like one of the best from the drugstore and the Lash Paradise. I would definitely pick up before this one. I'll continue using it since I just opened it up today for my lower lashes. It's not terrible, but I feel like there's better mascaras out there, but that was the popular one in the early 2000s. That was a good mascara to buy at the time, so I'm using it for old time's sake. But we need to do something with the lips today and create a lip combo. I pulled some products from my drawer that definitely bring me back. The Wet n Wild Mega Slicks, I purchased a few of these for the one brand video that I did several weeks ago. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it in the cards here to take you to that. The Clinique Black Honey, I have a small little mini from a set that I bought a while back, but the Black Honey from Clinique is like so old school. It's been a product that has been sold so many times. They have the lipsticks, they have lip gloss now, they have blush, they have, I think, a mascara as well. So they took this shade that was so popular and made it into other different types of products. So I think they even have eyeshadows too, like an eyeshadow duo or maybe a palette that's Black Honey inspired. But this is a classic. You can't go wrong. It gives you that kind of stained, almost like bitten lip type of look. It looks really dark and scary, but it's not. It's actually really pretty and flattering. I have 2 of these. I took one with me on vacation last month, and that's what I use for my lip, and it's really nice. But if I'm really staying true to what I actually did use consistently, besides the Wet n Wild Mega Slicks, were the lip glaze products from Stila. Who remembers these? This was like the it lip gloss. They were thick and super sticky. I remember my hair used to just get caught in it all the time. It didn't bother me then, but it would drive me nuts now, okay? I cannot stand sticky gloss. So I picked one of these up a while back. I haven't used this. And of course, this is in that Kitten shade. I told you they took that shade and made it into many other things since that product was so popular. This is a really pretty kind of sparkly, light, kind of nude. It's probably gonna look more clear. This would be a great color to top a lip liner, a lipstick. You have to get it started by twisting this. And the thing is, you don't wanna twist so much that it explodes. That was the thing that I used to do all the time, and I feel like I would waste so much product doing that. So you just gotta twist it, work that product, and get it going. So I'll be here for a few minutes, but I'm excited to try this again. See? If you keep clicking, it'll start to bubble up on the top, and then it just kind of spills out. So you gotta kind of keep in mind how many times you're clicking as you're seeing the product rise and go through like that inner tube inside before it comes out through the brush applicator, which is what is provided. I used to never use lip liner. I was not a fan of it. I didn't feel like it was a need or a necessity, but it absolutely is. It makes such a difference using a lip liner, even if it's just to get that shape going. And now that I do it, I cannot not do it. And it has like a minty kind of cooling feel. If you do put a lot on, I don't know if you can see that. It gets kind of goopy. That's the thing. This is really thick, like very thick. So I would not use as much as I just applied. I would probably just do a little bit. Let's see if I can take some of this off and wipe it off. But that is the Kitten gloss. And let me go right over that with the Black Honey. Let's add a little bit of color. We'll see how much of this color comes off on top of the gloss. So that little bit of color from the Black Honey definitely changed the way the lip looks, and I do like that tone. I feel like I needed a little bit of color. I'm so used to wearing lipsticks and lip liners that just putting just almost basically a clear type of product is feeling like I'm missing something. So adding a little bit of color really definitely pulled everything together. And that's it, you guys. That is my completed look. We're traveling back in time, and I feel like I definitely went back all the way to 2000, early 2000s, and I couldn't be happier about it. These products are incredible. They're iconic. They're still available for purchase now for a reason. They're great products, great formulas, and they just look so good on the skin, and I just love these products, and I just don't understand why I stopped using them. So I'm excited to incorporate these products yet again into my routine and just kind of circle back around to some of these products that I used to love so much. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and give the video a thumbs up. If you'd like to shop anything that I featured in today's video, I will have the links for you down below. Thanks for being here, for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Let's talk in the comments. What are your favorite products from early 2000s? What are your old school favorites? Do you still use them? Can you still buy them? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for being here, for watching. Follow me on Instagram. It's here on the screen. Take care, you guys, and I'll catch you very soon. Bye-bye.